You've asked, you've visualized, you've whispered intentions into the quantum field, scripted your desires into journals, and held the vision beneath your breath like a sacred fire. But still, it hasn't come. You wait, you reach, you wonder what you're missing. But what if the block isn't in the asking? What if it's in the holding? What if you're not being tested, but tuned? Because the universe is not responding to your wishes. It's responding to your readiness. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you're resonant with. And resonance begins where resistance ends. It begins when you let go of the self who needs the outcome to feel whole. When your energy stops echoing lack and begins transmitting truth. Because manifestation isn't about doing more, it's about becoming different. Not in effort, but in essence. Not by force, but by frequency. This is the alignment code. The subtle geometry of becoming. The invisible pattern behind what enters your life and what stays just out of reach. It's the reason things show up when you stop chasing. The reason desires land the moment you no longer grip them. And it's not magic. It's mechanics. Energetic, emotional, metaphysical. In this journey, we'll decode that pattern. We'll explore how your identity shapes your receiving, how your emotional body either welcomes or blocks what you seek, and why the dream you're waiting for only arrives when you become the version of you that no longer needs it. This isn't about passivity or blind surrender. It's about precision. It's about resonance. It's about remembering who you were before the distortion, so life can meet you as you actually are. Because what you're asking for isn't outside of you. It's orbiting your field, waiting to land in the one place it's always been searching for, a version of you that can finally hold it. You are always manifesting, not through your vision boards, not through your rituals or words, but through your frequency, the silent signal your entire being broadcasts in every moment. Alignment is not something you perform. It's what arises when your inner structure, your thoughts, emotions, nervous system, and identity matches the frequency of what you're calling in. You don't receive through wanting, you receive through becoming. The universe doesn't deny, it calibrates. It will not send what your current structure can't sustain. Think of it like voltage. You may dream of more love, more impact, more abundance. But if your energetic wiring is still built for scarcity or struggle, the circuit shorts. The result isn't expansion, it's collapse. So life waits, not to punish, but to prepare. It stretches you, it refines you. It strengthens your inner container until the dream you once feared would break you can finally move through you without distortion. This is the architecture of alignment, and it is built through inner coherence, not forced positivity, not perfect behavior. Coherence means your mind, body, and energy speak the same language. It means there's no hidden part of you bracing for loss while another part reaches for gain. You may say you want love, but if your nervous system still flinches at intimacy, the field registers contradiction. You may affirm abundance, but if your body still holds shame around receiving, there is static in the signal. You may visualize success, but if some part of you fears being seen, you unconsciously delay your own arrival. The field reads none of your surface affirmations. It reads your resonance, and resonance cannot be faked. This is why becoming is everything. Not the striving kind, where you contort yourself to earn the outcome, but the shedding kind. The kind that releases the self who was built to survive the lack, so a new one can emerge, built to hold the dream. Because the version of you that's gripping, doubting, fearing is not wrong, it's just not equipped. So life begins sculpting, through delay, through challenge, through the exact experiences that stretch the parts of you still holding scarcity, control, or fear. You become the one who can hold more by releasing the one who couldn't. This isn't spiritual punishment, it's energetic design. Because what you're asking for isn't difficult to create. It's difficult to receive when you're still misaligned with it. So the path forward is less about forcing, more about refining. Strip away the static, release the contradictions, stabilize your system, soften into trust. Because alignment isn't a reward, it's a requirement. And the moment your structure becomes clear, the moment your inner world no longer wavers under the weight of what you want, reality responds. effortlessly, instantly, precisely. So if it hasn't arrived, ask yourself, what version of me made this request? And have I become the one who can hold what that version longed for? Because the field doesn't wait for effort, it waits for coherence. And once you become a match, you don't chase the dream. You become the one it's been looking for all along. You can speak the affirmations. You can visualize your desires with perfect clarity. You can map every moon phase to your intentions. But if your emotional body is resisting, nothing moves. Because manifestation doesn't obey thought. It follows feeling. It responds to frequency. And emotion is the texture of your frequency. Emotional resistance is subtle. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers beneath the surface, a quiet clench in the chest, a pause in the breath, a lingering doubt you forgot to name. That doubt becomes a distortion, a static woven through the signal you're sending out. You may want change, but still fear what change might demand. You may crave expansion, but your nervous system flinches at the unknown. You may long for love, but somewhere within you're still bracing for the moment it leaves. This resistance is not sabotage, it's self-protection. Because the body remembers. It remembers every fall, every disappointment, every moment it learned that reaching came with pain. Even if your mind is ready, your body might still associate receiving with danger, and your system will never allow what it doesn't feel safe to hold. So the field responds, not to your intention, but to your internal safety. It hears your longing, yes, but it listens more deeply to the vibration beneath it. This is why so many feel stuck while doing everything right. Because alignment isn't about routine. It's about regulation. It's about how safe your inner world feels while holding the frequency of what you want. If you're asking for abundance but still carrying shame around money, your signal is split. If you're asking for love but still associating closeness with loss, your heart will close the door before anything can enter. So the path isn't to override your emotions, it's to welcome them, to feel what you've buried, to hold space for the parts of you that are still scared. Because every time you turn toward the fear instead of away, it loses its grip. The charge discharges, the nervous system softens, the signal clears, and when your inner world stops resisting, the field no longer hesitates. This is emotional alignment, not emotional perfection, not bypassing the hard feelings, but coherence between your heart, your mind, and your energy. When every part of you says yes, without bracing, without flinching, life listens. Because then you're no longer broadcasting mixed signals, you're fully open, and openness is the most magnetic state there is. So if the dream hasn't arrived, don't ask, what am I doing wrong? Ask instead, what feeling am I still afraid to feel? Because often, the very emotion you're avoiding is the gatekeeper to the reality you're calling in. Meet it, feel it, hold it like a younger self who once thought they had to earn love, earn safety, earn being seen. And when you welcome that part home, you shift from resistance to readiness, from wanting to allowing, from fear to flow. There's a delay in manifestation most people never see. It's not about timing. It's not the universe taking its time. It's you, still holding an identity that doesn't fit the dream. Because no matter how high you raise your frequency, if your self-concept hasn't evolved, you'll quietly reject everything you say you're ready for. This is identity lag, the unseen gap between what you've aligned with energetically and who you still believe you are. And until that gap closes, the field holds back, not out of punishment, but because your energy still says, this isn't safe, this isn't me. Your identity is more than personality. It's your lens. It colors what you think is possible, what you believe you deserve, what you unconsciously allow yourself to receive. It's the scaffolding of your vibration, and it's shaped by stories, some inherited, some repeated so often they've become invisible. I always fall short. I'm not the kind of person who gets chosen. Things work for others, not for me. These narratives act like filters. Even when the opportunity arrives, you won't see it clearly. You'll deflect the gift, sabotage the door, or distort the dream to match the version of you that still expects lack. Because the nervous system craves what's familiar, even when it contradicts what you say you want. So if your self-image is still rooted in survival, receiving abundance feels unsafe. If your identity is shaped by invisibility, attention feels threatening. If you believe you're only worthy when struggling, ease feels like a trap. And so the dream stays just out of reach. This is why becoming isn't about performance. It's about permission. Not from the world, but from yourself. You have to give yourself permission to be someone new. Someone whose story no longer requires suffering to feel real. This isn't pretending, it's remembering. Because your true identity was never lack, never fear, never the almost there version who keeps trying to prove themselves. That was survival, a mask built to navigate wounds. But now, you're rewriting. Not with empty affirmations, but with embodiment. You begin showing up as the future self before the evidence arrives. Not to fake it, but to teach your body, your mind, your field. This is who we are now. You walk like someone who belongs in that dream. You breathe like someone who knows they're enough without it. You speak like someone who no longer asks for permission to be powerful. Because when your identity shifts, your frequency follows, and the field doesn't wait. It reflects. So if it still hasn't arrived, ask, am I living through the identity that asked for this? Or am I still carrying the one who doubted they could? Because if you're waiting for the dream to confirm your worth, you'll keep circling the same loop. But if you become the one who knows they're already worthy, you collapse the lag, you stop reaching, you start receiving. Because you no longer need reality to prove who you are. You've already decided. The deeper you go into the laws of alignment, the clearer it becomes. What you want often arrives the moment you stop needing it. Not because the universe rewards indifference, but because neutrality is a signal of readiness. Need carries tension. It compresses the field. It narrows the wave of possibility into a desperate timeline where only one outcome feels acceptable. And the universe resists force. It echoes energy. When your vibration says, I must have this to be complete, the field mirrors lack, not fulfillment. But neutrality is pure openness. It doesn't mean giving up the dream. It means releasing the grip. It means holding your vision with steady palms, not clenched fists. Neutrality is clarity without control, desire without dependence, presence without pressure. It's the space where the field becomes fluid again, where energy moves without resistance because you've stopped distorting it with grasping. You've stopped needing reality to prove something about you. And that shift is magnetic, because when you no longer demand the outcome to soothe your doubt, you start resonating with the timeline where it already exists. The quantum field is shaped by expectation, and expectation is shaped by emotion. If your emotional state carries urgency, you collapse your access to infinite timelines. You send a signal that says, I don't trust the process. I don't believe I'm already enough. But in neutrality, you release the tension that blocks the flow. You become an open circuit, not chasing, not collapsing, just allowing. This is why so many receive their desires when they forget about them. Not because forgetting is a strategy, but because forgetting relaxes the grip, and relaxation restores the signal. Neutrality isn't cold, it's confident. It doesn't beg for confirmation. It doesn't rush. It doesn't bargain with the universe like a merchant at a market stall. It simply knows. It knows that the desire has already been heard, that the path is already unfolding, that the field doesn't need force, only coherence. In this state, your desire evolves. It matures. It shifts from being a tool for validation to a reflection of expansion. You don't want it to feel whole. You want it because you're already whole. This is where manifestation becomes elegant, effortless, precise. Because the signal you're sending is no longer scattered with doubt or clouded by fear. It's clean, it's calm. It says, I am already vibrating at the level of this reality. and the field rushes in to mirror that frequency. So if you find yourself gripping, waiting, counting days, pause. Ask yourself, am I still trying to get something, or have I become someone who already holds it? Have I collapsed into needing this outcome to feel safe? Or can I find peace here before it arrives? Because the moment your nervous system relaxes into the timeline where you're already enough, everything starts to move, not through force, through flow. This is when the field leans in, because you're no longer hoping, you're harmonized. There comes a quiet shift on the path, a moment when you stop pleading, stop proving, stop performing for the universe in hopes of being chosen. You begin to stand still, clear, whole, anchored in a knowing that no longer depends on evidence. This is energetic maturity. It's not about years or effort. It's not measured by how much shadow you've processed or how many tools you've mastered. It's felt in your field. It's the state where you're no longer asking from emptiness. You're inviting from fullness. You're not trying to get something. You've become someone who's ready to receive. Because readiness isn't just about desire, it's about capacity. Every vision carries a weight, and the version of you who asked for it may not have been the one capable of holding it. So life waits. It shapes you. It tests and tempers, not to punish, but to prepare. It reveals the parts of you still seeking validation, still believing the dream will make you enough, still depending on outcomes to feel powerful. But true power emerges before the proof. Energetic maturity is when you no longer need the dream to arrive in order to feel what you thought it would give you. You've stabilized your nervous system. You've made peace with the unknown. You no longer panic in the pause between asking and receiving. You've become the one who no longer chases outcomes, because your frequency is no longer built on conditions. You stopped trying to earn worthiness. You started embodying it. That's the signal the field recognizes. That's the moment things begin to move without resistance. Because now, you are no longer vibrating through lack. You're no longer transmitting urgency, doubt, or spiritual negotiation. You're simply aligned. There's no more desperation in your prayer. No more tension behind your vision. No more identity wrapped around the outcome. And when you reach that stillness, the universe responds instantly. Not because you finally got it right, but because you finally became real. Energetic maturity is the moment your frequency holds what you've asked for without flinching. You're no longer in the timeline of hoping, but in the vibration of already being. You're not waiting to become the one who receives, you already are. So if it still feels like you're waiting, ask with honesty, not from blame, but from clarity. Am I truly resonant with what I've asked for? Or am I still holding on to a version of me who doesn't believe they're ready? When that answer is clear, when you drop the self-doubt, the striving, the delay, reality reshapes around you. Because the dream isn't waiting to arrive. It's waiting for the one who can hold it with grace. Alignment was never about asking louder. It was about clearing the static. The universe didn't withhold. It waited for the version of you who no longer reached from lack, who no longer mistook control for power or urgency for truth. You don't receive what you want. You receive what your frequency can hold. And when you stop grasping, when your energy stops echoing need, you become the match. That's when the field responds. Not through magic, through mirror. You stop chasing. You start remembering. You realize you were never waiting for the dream. The dream was waiting for you. For the version of you who knows, I am already enough. I already belong in the reality I once begged for. So if you remember anything from this code, let it be this. You don't manifest by force. You manifest by becoming. And once you become the signal, the universe doesn't have to deliver. It simply reflects.